So it looks like it's more or less official that CM Punk will be coming back to AEW, and he will be returning on the debut, or the inaugural show, Collision, on June 17th, and that's going to be at the United Center in CM Punk's hometown. So it's at Chicago, it's at United Center, so it looks like that CM Punk is going to be coming back. There's been all this speculation for weeks, for months, what's going to happen. You know, is CM Punk done with AEW? Is he done wrestling, you know, overall even? But it looks like now that they've come to an agreement and that he's going to be returning, and it's going to be June 17th, Chicago. A lot of it was over, all this other stuff was over to do with, I think, Punk's pal Ace Steel. At first, Ace Steel was just, he had been back, but he'd been just working remotely. But now he was pushing for Steel to actually be brought back, so he's like an agent producer, Ace Steel, and he's the guy who trained Punk. And I saw this coming. I mean, the whole thing, the whole story with the, you know, the whole elite CM Punk fiasco, and then Ace Steel getting involved, and I think he even bit Kenny Omega. I knew that this would happen. I knew that eventually Punk would more or less say, "Hey, I'm not coming back unless you bring my friend back into the company as well." You know, I knew this was going to happen. But, you know, looks like Punk got what he wanted, and it doesn't really surprise me. Punk, I mean, would Punk return? You know, if they'd put their foot down and said, "No, we're not bringing him back." My guess is he probably wouldn't. You know, but I think at the same time, Punk knew the leverage he had, and he used it to his advantage. You know, no doubt. But I think he would still be loyal to his friend in that position, because I mean, hell, I mean, Ace Steel, I mean, getting involved in that fight, I mean, you know, risking his job to, you know, protect his friend, I mean, you do have to, that is admirable. But the whole thing, I mean, the whole thing overall with Punk, it's all this shit now. I mean, it's all the shit with you know, he's got problems with Elite, he's got problems with Jericho, he's got problems with John Moxley, he's got problems even a little bit with MJF. I don't think he's a huge fan of his attitude, but so there's just a lot of problems there, and it has kind of, you know, it has created quite a, you know, I mean, I suppose it's played a part in creating a real toxic atmosphere in AEW, in the dressing room, in the back. There's been a lot of other things as well. There's been problems, you know. God, take Sammy Guevara for instance. He's had his problems with Eddie Kingston, and then he also had problems with Andrade. They got into it backstage. So there's a lot of problems now. I mean, I think I said in an old video of mine, like, the honeymoon period is over with AEW. And, you know, at one point it was this perception that AEW was, you know, the AEW was different from WWE, and WWE was a toxic place to work, and that's where all the politics were at, and you were always walking on eggshells. But now it seems to be there's a lot of problems in AEW, though. Obviously a lot of problems with talent. And I was just looking at some stuff here. So, I mean, the whole thing with the Collision show, it seems really to be, I mean, to me, it seems to be, it's like, it's kind of, I guess, this show is going to be to keep Punk happy. That they've created this separate show to have, like, a roster of guys that I guess will be more like Team Punk. And then I guess the roster of guys who will be on the Dynamite show, they'll be more like the guys like it'll be obviously be the Bucks, Omega, and then guys who are more Team Elite. Like, I think that's how it'll be. I don't know where that leaves Rampage. I mean, I know they're cutting Dark Elevation, which is probably a good idea, because that was just far too much and kind of like you know, in the end it was just mostly meaningless squash matches. All the matches were more or less squash matches. Maybe you could have kept one of those two shows at least, but probably the right call to scrap those shows, though, to be honest. But this whole thing with Collision, I mean, I think, does it have the potential to work? Yes, but I don't know overall, though. I mean, it would be interesting to see the brand split. The brand split, if it would be effective. I mean, one thing when it came to brand splits, I remember when that started in WWE, and I wasn't a fan of it. I wasn't a fan of it initially, and it wasn't probably until maybe about 4 or so years in that I started to take to it, and I actually liked it. I would say overall I prefer that. I actually do prefer to be, it's more strict that this star can only appear on this show. And that's how it used to be for a while, very early on, and in around 2002, 2003 time, where you would never, hardly ever see, you know, a Raw superstar appear on SmackDown and vice versa. And then that made it real more of a big deal when it happened. But I mean, there's going to be there's heat there. I mean, he's got heat. It seems like he's got heat with Moxley as well, John Moxley, because this was the whole thing that. Well, I'll read through the whole thing. This was the Instagram post that Punk had about a month or so ago. So this was, I think, in response to stuff that Meltzer was saying. Meltzer and his, of course, his reliable sources. But I'm sure he does have some fairly reliable sources in AEW, people who stooge off stuff to him. But this is what Punk said. He said, I wasn't cleared to come back to wrestle yet. Then the plan was to wrestle the pay-per-view. I sat and listened to Moxley's Rocky 3 idea. I'd explained how I'd never seen a Rocky movie. And I thought the idea sucked, but if the boss wanted to do it, whatever. He said he wouldn't lose to me. I'd never experienced someone refusing to lose to me. I just laughed. I asked Tony if this is what he wanted. He said yes. He's the boss, so I said okay, but I needed to be cleared first. They kept saying it could be just a squash match, so I didn't need it to be cleared. I scoffed at that. My health is more important. Dave Meltzer's a liar. Jericho is a liar and a stooge. There were plans, but plans always change, but I'll never put a company above my health again. So this was the thing, was them wanting to just him have a squash, but he wasn't cleared to wrestle. And I can understand him in that position, feeling like, wow, like, they don't really give a shit. Do they really give a shit about me here? They just want me to get in the ring, and even if it's a squash, potentially get really badly hurt. So I can kind of understand Punk's stance with these things. But I don't know if it's maybe a case of Punk's ego getting in the way of a lot of things here. I remember, like, there was the whole thing with the Adam Page thing where you had a bee in his bonnet about Adam Page saying certain things on the microphone, maybe bringing up the whole stuff to do with, like, Punk going on about workers' rights, I guess kind of accusing him, more or less implying he's like, Punk's a hypocrite. But, and you know what, he may have had a point there because, Punk, very early on, I mean, he had that thing when he was on the mic in WWE early on, and early on in his career, like, he just didn't give a fuck. He didn't give a fuck. He would lay into people verbally on the microphone. And I made this point in another video before. It was like, you mean to tell me that Punk didn't ever, quote-unquote, I guess, go into business for himself on the mic? Unscripted lines in the ring and promos with talent, and they didn't know a certain line was coming, a certain zinger, and, it caught them off guard. So maybe Punk's a little bit of a hypocrite for being, like, critical of Adam Page saying those things. But in a weird way, I think it would have been better, actually. Like, if Adam Page was trying to kind of, like, paint, like, Punk as the heel, I think that would have been made for a better program. Like, it was just pretty bland having Page and Punk, like, face versus face match. And I do think face versus face matches aren't the best. They're kind of overrated. But you also, I mean, yeah, so there's the stuff with, there was the stuff with Jericho. But I think they've hashed it out. Maybe the stuff saying Jericho's a stooge, maybe that's a bit of a work there. So maybe they could have a good program. I mean, they've worked together before in AEW, though, so I don't know if they would. Will they work again? Will Jericho go in this show? They be like the two main top guys and have a program? I don't know, because Jericho has said before in the past, he's even said how, like, when Matt Hardy came in a few years back, he said, I wouldn't want to work with Matt Hardy, We've done that before, nobody wants to see it. So if that's his mindset, then maybe he won't want to work with Punk. Maybe not a specific one-on-one program, though. Maybe like a thing where it's the Appreciation Society, the Appreciation Society, and with Punk and FDR. Maybe something like that. But then, so now you've got this thing about Punk and Moxley have heat, though. So Punk and Moxley apparently don't like one another, and this is what Wade Keller said of the PW Torch. not saying he's the most reliable person for this, but this is what he says, though, nonetheless. He says, for one, John Moxley and CM Punk do not like each other that much. Anybody I asked around will say that. It's very clear. There's a tension to a degree, certainly. They are not in a position now where anybody would predict that they would want to work together, or if they would even feel comfortable working together on a promo or whatever. From what I gather, the sentiment is he's not welcome back. The wrestlers don't want him back. Majority of wrestlers don't want him back. And that's one thing. I mean, and then he goes on to say all the different lists of the people that he doesn't get along with. And I guess you could say in that case maybe there's a bit of a point there. But, I mean, I think there's a lot of wrestlers, though, that do like Punk. I mean, you do get a lot of good stories that Punk's very selfless. He really does go out of his way to help talent, give advice. And so I think, I mean, Punk definitely adds value, and I think Punk does care, and there is a good side of him. But there is a side of him that no doubt can be toxic, and quite frankly, he can be a bit of a prick. I think the thing with Punk is that Punk, I don't know if he's maybe just one of these guys, and I know people like him, is that people as friends of his could kind of, at times, maybe be afraid to criticize him. Like they're too afraid because they're worried he'll kind of go off on them. Like, I wonder if there was any of Punk's friends when he did that whole thing, and it went too far, the whole media scrum thing, he went way too far, made Tony Khan look like a total idiot, just kept going on and on and on to the point when there was other questions about other people, but he made it all about him, and then bringing up the whole Colt Cabana stuff, and it was wrong, it was pretty unprofessional. And, you know, did anyone actually phone up and say to him, hey, or you know, I think you had it wrong there, man. You went, you know, I don't know if any of his pals would have told him that he crossed the line. I don't think that they would I don't say have the guts to tell him, but I don't think anyone would tell Punk that because they'd probably be afraid of how he would react. And I see with Punk, when he was getting asked all these questions in the media scrum, and he was just still going on a rant and ranting and raving, that I don't know, there's some, like, a mental health problem there. Maybe, I mean, I wouldn't say he's like a bipolar, maybe like some kind of mood disorder. And this is speaking as somebody who's had mental health problems, by the way. But there was just something off about the way he was just kept going on and on. You know, he couldn't pick up the cue that, like, okay, it's not all about you. You know, there is other people on this roster. There's other people that the journalists there actually want to talk about, and are, you know, it's not all, the world doesn't revolve around you, Punk. You know, basically is what I'm getting at. So there is that side of him where I think he can be a bit of a dick, and maybe he has played his part in there being quite a real toxic. It's become toxic in AEW. But it is, I mean, it isn't all his fault, though. You know, it isn't all his fault, because I can understand his frustration in a way, because I don't know what the guys like the Bucks and Omega, what, you know, their real contribution in this whole thing, you know, with them when they were EVPs, and I think that, you know, okay, we don't know this for sure, but they might have played a part in driving Cody out of AEW. You know, there was supposed to be apparently a falling out there. And yeah, maybe they did kind of have a part to play in making it kind of difficult for Cody's, just making his time there, his life there a bit difficult. They didn't want to work there anymore. You know, possible. But yeah, that's the one thing. I mean, that's the question I have in this for the title. You know, is CM Punk worth the headache for AEW? And, I mean, it's a tough one, because obviously, you know, he does add value, but then, I mean, has he really made a huge change, a difference to the ratings? I mean, I'm sure for that first show, they'll pop a good rating, you know, no doubt, but then it could just go back to their same, you know, usual kind of mediocre numbers, you know, but yeah, it's just a funny one with Punk. And I don't know at what point he decided that he was going to come back exactly, because there was the whole thing about him, you know, visiting people backstage at WWE. All of a sudden, he's starting talking to The Miz, clearing the air with The Miz, speaking to Triple H, you know, which did surprise me a bit when I heard about that. You know, I had Eric Bischoff calling him a desperate bitch. You know, Eric Bischoff, he does not like Punk at all, and I can understand in a way what you know, Punk Bischoff's problem with Punk, because of the whole thing about Punk saying that his return was better than when the NWO was formed, more or less, in WCW in '96, and it's like, no, come on, that is bullshit. That is bullshit. But if he wants to think that, let him think that. Let him be deluded like that. But yeah, but Bischoff, he does not like him one bit. But it was. I mean, the whole thing was steel, and I did see it come in. And this is, I mean, the thing with the dirt sheets are quite ridiculous, really, because you know, the dirt sheets initially reported that Ace Steel will not be coming back to the company, and then a day later, then there's an article that, oh, Ace Steel is going to be. He's been working for a few weeks now. He's been working remotely, so a lot of these guys really don't have a clue. And I think probably a lot of the talent just manipulates the dirt sheets and spreads probably false information out there. A lot of the time, it's probably just for shits and giggles, for their own amusement. I remember JBL tweeting something like that, admitting that that's more or less what they used to do back in the day with Meltzer, and saying how easy to manipulate Dave Meltzer was. And yeah, but as I say, yeah, I saw the thing coming with I saw it coming with Ace Steel. But I mean, hell, I mean, Ace Steel's a loyal friend, though, and I didn't even know who Ace Steel was, actually, until the whole thing when he came out and did that promo. But there's like an interesting story. I remember I was watching a shoot interview that Kennedy did, Mr. Kennedy, and he was telling a story about how when he was back in the Indies doing shows, and he was on the come up, just like Punk was, that Punk and Ace Steel, like, Kenny was like in a tag match. Punk and Ace Steel were on commentary, and they just like buried the fuck out of them. You know? And to like, that's the thing in wrestling, like, to bury somebody, even if you know they're the shits, right? But to go out and on publicly on TV and character and bury them, like, it doesn't get more unprofessional than that. You know? And but then Kennedy did tell a story that when he confronted Punk on it, then Punk basically just said, hey man, sorry, I was in a bad mood that day. And then they were cool after that. So I don't know, I mean, I don't know if that excuse, how legit that excuse was for why he did it, but then, yeah, that's the thing, Punk hasn't been an angel over the years, and stories have come out that Punk could be a bit of a dick, maybe even a bit of a backstage politician. But, I mean, overall, like, I think this was what they had to do. I mean, they did have to bring him back because he does have star power. And I think overall, like, I mean, to me, they should do something with Punk and the Elite, though. That's the main thing. Do something with Punk and the Elite, and you could have that potential there for the big show that's going to be in the summer at Wembley Stadium. That could be the main event. It could be Punk in the FTR versus Elite. That could be the big main event. And I don't know where they're at with the show. They're going to be selling out Wembley. I mean, cause I don't know at what point how many tickets now they've sold out. I mean, I'm up here in Scotland. I don't plan on going. I'm not that huge of an AEW fan. But, I mean, there's definitely potential there with Punk. You could have him come back in. He might even start working with MJF again. You know, you could do something with Jericho. And then maybe later on you could start working with Elite. But there's definitely stuff you can do there with Punk. Having the show, having the Collision show, having the people in that are on like a roster on that show that are maybe more Punk guys, that's maybe the way to go. And then you've got the guys that on Dynamite who are more like Bucks, Omega, Elite guys. I'm sure it'll be some people will fall in the middle, but it will be hard. Some people ultimately probably they'll feel as if they've got to pick a side, though, no doubt. But yeah, those are my thoughts, guys, on this stuff with Punk and AEW. So yeah, feel free to leave a comment, hit the like, hit the subscribe button. and I'm definitely going to be back. I'm going to be very active, and I'll have a few more videos uploaded and by the end of the week. So thanks, guys. See ya.